Someone pulled up to Rihanna's house on a Sunday afternoon with an AR-style rifle and started shooting. She fired multiple rounds at a residential gate with her kids potentially inside. Then the woman got into her white Tesla and drove away, like she had somewhere to be. And the question nobody can stop asking is not who pulled the trigger. That part is solved. The question is, who, if anyone, sent her there? Let's get into it. Sunday, March 8th, 1:21 p.m. A woman parked across the street from Rihanna's property on Heather Road in Beverly Crest and opened fire from inside her car. Several rounds struck the property, including parts of the gate and exterior. Rihanna was home. She walked away fine. LAPD logged it as assault with a deadly weapon. Police located the vehicle and followed it to Sherman Oaks. The woman was arrested in a parking garage at the Sherman Oaks Galleria, 8 miles away. A rifle was recovered. Shell casings matched. She was booked on suspicion of attempted murder. Clean arrest. Fast response. Case closed on the surface. Except nothing about this feels like a surface-level situation. A woman in her 30s driving a white Tesla to one of the most private and deliberately hidden addresses in Los Angeles with a semi-automatic rifle on a Sunday afternoon is not a spontaneous decision. That does not happen because someone woke up and felt like it. Getting to that specific gate on that specific road requires knowing exactly where you are going. You do not Google that address and find it. You do not stumble onto that street from a main road by accident. Private road, winding hills, no signage pointing you anywhere useful. You need the address written down or saved in your phone before you leave the house. And knowing where you're going raises the question that has been driving every conversation about this since Sunday. Who told her? Beverly Crest is not a neighborhood you find by accident. Private roads, tall gates, no foot traffic. Paul McCartney lives nearby. Rihanna paid $13.7 million for that property in 2020, specifically because addresses like that do not circulate. The whole point of that street is that it stays completely off the radar of anyone who is not specifically given the information. And yet this woman found it, parked directly across from the right gate, opened fire, and drove away. Investigators are examining how the suspect located the property, and that question has no public answer yet. But it is the question everything else in this story flows from. Because if she found it on her own through obsessive research, that is one situation entirely. Someone with too much time, too much fixation, and enough digital digging to eventually surface a private address. It is terrifying, but it happens, and it looks a specific way when investigators go through the evidence. If someone gave it to her, that is a completely different situation, with completely different implications for everyone involved. It would mean a second person, a second set of intentions, a second investigation running parallel to the one already in progress. Nobody is saying that publicly yet, but nobody following this story since Sunday is not thinking it. A woman in her 30s, braided hair, a cream-colored blouse, dark pants. She fired a semi-automatic rifle from inside her car at a gated residential property in broad daylight, and then drove 8 miles to a shopping mall. No name has been released, no confirmed prior connection to Rihanna, no established motive. Police say they are still working to determine whether she had any connection to Rihanna or anyone around her at all. And that is where the two very different versions of this story split completely. A random act almost always leaves a trail. Social media posts, search history, forum activity, some digital record of a fixation building over time that eventually boils over into action. Someone acting entirely alone, driven by obsession, leaves fingerprints everywhere because it is not quiet and contained. It posts, it searches, it documents itself across platforms for weeks or months before anything physical happens. Investigators find it within hours of cracking the phone. A coordinated act looks different. Someone with direct access to a private address, a specific reason to want damage done, and the ability to stay completely at arm's length, while someone else physically carries the risk. No trail connecting the origin to the action. Clean separation between who planned it and who executed it. A woman in a Tesla who absorbs the charge while whoever actually set this in motion stays invisible, unreachable, and nowhere near Beverly Crest on Sunday afternoon. Investigators have not said which of those this is, The motive is unknown, and the investigation is ongoing. Neither possibility has been ruled out. In the absence of a clear public answer, the internet has already started drawing its own conclusions. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribe. It helps the channel tremendously. Rihanna has not posted, she has not released a statement. Her representatives have not responded to a single media request since Sunday. Total silence from her entire camp. And that silence is doing its own talking. When public figures are genuinely blindsided by something this serious, they almost always say something. Even if it is brief. Even if it comes through a representative. A single line confirming they are safe. That they are grateful. That they are shaken, but okay. It is the standard response, and it usually comes within hours, because the alternative, complete silence, creates exactly the kind of vacuum that fills up with speculation. Rihanna is one of the most active and visible celebrities on the planet. 9 Grammy Awards, 14 #1 singles, a billion-dollar business empire she built from scratch. She knows how public perception works better than almost anyone in that industry. She knows what silence communicates. So the theory circulating in the hours since Sunday, and this is not confirmed by any official source, is that the silence is not confusion. It is not shock. It is strategy. Sources close to the situation have been telling people privately that Rihanna is not sitting in that house waiting for answers. The word moving through those conversations is that she already has a theory, that she told investigators something in those first hours after the arrest that has not been made public, and that she is letting the official process build the case while she stays quiet and does not tip off whoever she suspects by going public prematurely. Whether that is accurate, nobody outside that investigation can confirm. But the behavior is consistent with someone who is not waiting for the story to develop, because they are already ahead of it. Rocky's full name is Rakim Mayers. He was born October 3rd, 1988, in Harlem. He has been one of the most influential figures in hip-hop for over a decade. His debut album, Live Love AJAP, entered the Billboard 200 at #1 in 2013. He has been Rihanna's partner since they went public in 2020, and together they have 3 children and one of the most watched family lives in entertainment. In early 2026, just weeks before the shooting, Rocky was acquitted on firearms charges in Los Angeles. The trial ran for weeks, with a full media circus around it every single day. When the not guilty verdict came in, he jumped into Rihanna's arms in the courtroom. She had been present throughout the entire process, sitting in that room every day. And she brought their 2 young sons to hear the closing arguments. Investigators looked at the connection between the acquittal and the shooting immediately after the arrest was made. Their public conclusion is that there is no known indication the shooting is connected to Rocky or anyone in their circle. But a high-profile firearms acquittal creates enemies. Real ones. People who sat on the opposing side of that case and walked away convinced justice was not delivered. People who watched the verdict come in and felt something they did not let go of quietly. And when a shooting happens at the home of the acquitted person's partner just weeks after that verdict lands, the timing generates questions that a first statement issued in the opening hours of an active investigation cannot fully put to rest. First statements are based on what is known at that exact moment, not what the phone reveals after forensic analysis, not what the full digital picture shows after days of investigation. What is known in the first few hours. And the first few hours is the very beginning of a robbery-homicide investigation, not the end of one. Nobody credible is pointing at Rocky or anyone in his circle as being behind this. That is not the claim being made. The claim is that the timing is exactly the kind of timing that serious investigators do not stop examining until they have a fully supported and definitive answer. And that definitive answer has not come yet. Which means the question remains open, whether anyone wants it to or not. Then there is the financial layer that keeps surfacing in these conversations and refuses to be dismissed. Rihanna is worth approximately $1 billion. She has 50% ownership of Fenty Beauty, which generated $550 million in annual sales as of 2023 through a landmark partnership with LVMH, the French conglomerate behind Louis Vuitton and Dior. She is co-owner of Savage X Fenty, valued at around $1 billion. She has a real estate portfolio spanning multiple high-value properties across Los Angeles. Her personal brand is one of the most financially valuable on the entire planet. Money at that level does not exist in a clean, uncomplicated world. It creates business relationships that go sideways after years of seeming fine. It creates people who feel cut out of something they helped build, underpaid for their contribution, sidelined when the real money started moving. It creates legal disputes that technically resolve on paper, while the grievance behind them stays alive and unresolved in the person who lost. It creates a whole ecosystem of people who orbited enormous wealth at various points, and did not all leave that orbit on good terms. Is any of that connected to Sunday? Nobody is claiming it is, but the question of whether this was personal, financial, or something else entirely is precisely what robbery-homicide detectives ask the moment they crack open a seized phone and start pulling every contact, every message thread, and the complete location history of the person in custody. Every relationship that woman had, every conversation she had in the weeks before Sunday, every person whose name appears in her phone more than once. That process is happening right now in an LAPD evidence room. And whatever comes out of it is either going to confirm that this woman acted entirely alone with no external direction, or it is going to open up an investigation considerably larger than the one that started Sunday afternoon. Rihanna has 3 children under 4. Urza, born May 2022. Riot Rose, born August 2023. Rocky Irish Mayers, born September 13th, 2025. 5 months before someone parked outside her gate in Beverly Crest and opened fire with a semi-automatic rifle. A 5-month-old daughter was in that house on that Sunday afternoon. That single detail reframes everything else about this story. This was not just an attack on a celebrity brand or a public figure. This was someone firing a rifle at a residential property with an infant inside. And the fact that Rihanna has said absolutely nothing publicly since it happened, while that image sits in everyone's head, is communicating something whether she intends it to or not. When the silence finally breaks, and it will, what she says will matter in a way a standard celebrity statement almost never does. If the theory circulating in private conversations is correct, if she already knows who ordered this and has been sitting on that information deliberately while investigators build an airtight case, then her next words will not be the usual, "I am grateful my family is safe, and I appreciate the support from my fans." It will be something that blows this story completely open in a direction nobody has publicly named yet. The suspect is in custody. The rifle has been recovered, charges have been filed. The LAPD Robbery Homicide Division is running the investigation, with full access to her phone, her vehicle, her complete digital history, and every piece of surveillance footage pulled from the neighborhood and surrounding area. And the motive is still publicly unknown. That single fact keeps this from being a closed story. Every other element has a confirmed answer. The only thing missing is the reason. And the reason is everything. It is the difference between a disturbed individual acting entirely alone and something coordinated, connected, and deliberate that does not end with one woman sitting in a parking garage in Sherman Oaks. Was she acting alone? Did someone give her that address? Did someone with a grievance and with enough distance to remain protected point her toward that gate and let her carry all of the risk and all of the consequences while they stayed untouchable? The answer to that question is sitting in a seized phone in an LAPD evidence room right now. And Rihanna in that house worth $13.7 million on a private road in Beverly Crest, with a 5-month-old daughter, 2 young sons, and a partner who just walked out of a courthouse on a not guilty verdict weeks ago, may already know exactly what that answer is. The motive is coming. And when it does, this story changes shape entirely. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.